Hi everyone, good to see you today. I can see this goes way back, so I can't see a lot of you back there, but thank you very much, Meredith, for that kind of introduction, and everyone at CTIU for inviting me to speak before you today. Now, this is not my first 5G summit, but for years I have witnessed firsthand the excitement, the experience, and the expertise that this event brings together. And I really am excited to be here also today. And it's exactly this collective knowledge in this room that we need to sustain US leadership in wireless innovation. Because as everyone here knows today, we're at the crossroads. Networks are converging, consumer demand is skyrocketing, and global competition is heating up. In short, the stakes couldn't be higher. We've known this for some time, but I think it's really critical today. Almost everything is critical today. But today even, we've been here today under alarming circumstances. During a lapse, as you know, in the FCC's auction authority, and that's something that's never happened before. Simply put, that's been a failure. To add insult to injury, it was an avoidable failure. Now, the day after this crucial authority expired, the Communications and Technology Subcommittee held a timely hearing, defending America's wireless leadership. At that meeting, I devoted most of my time to exploring what the root causes was of that lapse. Discordant federal voices causing disarray and inaction. Now, a little more than 3 years ago, I sent my first letter to the incoming administration. It was a letter to then President-elect Biden, urging him to develop a unified approach to spectrum policy and a clearly articulated process for resolving disputes. Now, as I noted in that letter, more intensive use of spectrum has the potential to cause friction among federal users and commercial users. Now, we all know to some extent this is unavoidable and healthy. Thoughtful debate about how to best utilize our limited spectrum resources will lead to better outcomes and more efficiency. But we cannot allow this to lead to conflict amongst ourselves. This just isn't the right way to do for innovation. As we've seen from semiconductors to software, American innovation directly translates to a more capable and nimble military apparatus. When technological advancement happens here in America, we can ensure it's securely applied to our unique national security needs. Now, in the short term, there should be no question. Vital federal missions cannot be jeopardized. We all agree on that. But uncompromising rigidity in defining the tools needed for those missions can result in federal paralysis. When that happens, the federal government is a roadblock to the innovation that is needed. I genuinely believe that a more nimble and predictable spectrum governance regime will be rising the tide for all boats, for consumers, federal users, and the industry. Now, thankfully, the Biden administration stepped up. The National Spectrum Strategy and Presidential Memorandum on Spectrum offer a vital roadmap for securing US leadership. Taken together, these documents will help ensure that the federal government is speaking with one voice. That means empowering the NTIA to work with our federal partners to maximize the use of our limited spectrum resources. But all of us will need to stay engaged with this process to ensure we hit our goals. That's why I sent a letter with Chairman Lada requesting an update about how they will be proceeding in the crucial and critical study of the lower 3 gigahertz band. For this and any other bands identified in the National Spectrum Strategy, it's simply vital that the parameters and methodologies for these studies are driven by engineering and science. I'm committed to continuing my work with Chairman Latta to ensure that our subcommittee provides the necessary oversight to make sure that that happens. But of course, with a hamstrung FCC, we're going to be limited in what we can achieve. I don't think we can afford to wait any longer. Congress needs a deal to reassert auction authority immediately. I think it can be done in a way that raises revenue for help to pay for important congressional priorities. I'm working with my colleagues to do just that. First and foremost, we should be working to preserve the Affordable Connectivity Program. I know all of you have heard so many times about how critical that is. With all the broadband going out into all the areas around the country, unless we have affordability, we can't have the connectivity we need. The ACP has really helped more than 23 million families afford a broadband connection. Whether it's for the first time or you just need a little bit extra help to making ends meet, the ACP is working. But you know, you've heard this, you don't need my word for it. A few months ago, a bipartisan group of governors sent a letter to congressional leaders urging them to fund this critical program. Signed by the governors of, for instance, Washington State, Utah, Michigan, amongst others, they made clear that their constituents need the ACP. And as they noted in the letter, and I quote, "Preserving the ACP will allow us to build upon the progress we made in expanding community connectivity rather than falling behind in a mission we cannot afford to lose." I couldn't agree more. So I'm asking everyone in this room to keep fighting. Get loud about this. Make sure everyone in Congress fully appreciates what's at stake, not just for the families who depend on it, but for the reputations of the businesses providing it. There's just too much on the line to allow this program to expire. But the ACP isn't the only thing we need to fund. We're at a critical point in this other issue too. We know that our global adversaries are working tirelessly to exploit the weak links throughout our networks. Nowhere is the dynamic clearer than with the vulnerable network gear still operating on American telecom networks. As an original co-sponsor of the Rip and Replace bill, I believe it's a national security imperative that we fully fund the shortfall in the reimbursement program as quickly as possible. Allowing Chinese-produced Huawei and ZTE gear to operate in our communications networks is like locking up the front door but leaving the back door unlocked. Thankfully, the FCC has made progress, but our work is far from complete, and we simply cannot afford to wait. We've known about this for a really long time. Congress must immediately explore every option on the table to deal with this urgent threat. And that's why I requested updated data from the FCC detailing on a state-by-state basis where the gear remains in our networks. The data the FCC provided reinforces what we already knew. The gear is still operating in nearly every single state in this country. It is in both red states and blue states, in rural areas and urban centers. And really that's why this shortfall needs to be funded in a bipartisan, national-wide priority for all of my colleagues. So clearly, there's a lot of work ahead of us. But I'm optimistic because I know all of you are bringing your significant knowledge and experience to bear supporting U.S. leadership. We need your engagement now more than ever before, and I know you're ready to answer that call. All of this is critical right now and for the future. We have a lot of other things on our plates that we want to deal with too, but we have to get these things done and get going, because that really determines what our leadership will look like in the world. And I'm working with all of you to make sure that that happens. And I want to thank you, CTIA, for the invitation to join you, and also the work that you do so we can work together as we advance not only our networks, our innovation, but really the future of this country. So thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you.